Most fun Rotary Club that we know of. Before we get started today, I'd like to invite Jay Gadberry up to the podium to lead us in the five-way test pledge and prayer. And then Jerome Strickland is going to introduce our guests today. And then Membership Recruitment Chair Elizabeth Cloxton will introduce a new Club 99er. Jay?
Let us pray. Our Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for our ability to come together with our friends and associates in fellowship. Thank you for our many blessings. And bless our activities here in Little Rock, Arkansas, and the nation. Thank you for our Oppenheimer program. And bless all of those involved in our program, including our two scholars. We ask that your will be done. Help us live the life that you would have us live. Go Hogs. Amen. Rotary four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
I'd like to make a special announcement that for our guests that we don't traditionally say go Hogs in our prayers. But when it's a game week, you know, it's quite all right. I'll take it, Jay. Thanks. So we have one amazing, illustrious guest with us today, Brad Hughes. If you could take a moment and stand. We're so happy to have you. Thank you. And he was invited by Chris Duncan. If you could stand just wait. There we go. Thank you. It's great to have you here, and we look forward to our session today.
Glad to be back this week with y'all and to welcome our latest member, Susan Blair, to Club 99. She is sponsored by past president Elizabeth Small. She is the partner in DD&F Consulting Group, which provides consulting services to financial institutions. Susan has over 40 years of experience as a financial services executive with special expertise in corporate communication, marketing, advertising, public relations, investor relations, strategic planning, product development, and sales and financial management. She has a BA in advertising and public relations from UA Little Rock and attended the University of Georgia Athens Bank Marketing Association School of Advanced Marketing and Strategic Planning. She began her career at Twin City Bank, was senior vice president and district manager for U.S. Bank, and had a 17-year career at Bank OZK, including leading the project team for the successful rebrand to Bank OZK in 2018. She is the newly appointed chair of the St. Vincent Foundation Board, is vice chair of the Arkansas Community Health and Education Foundation Board, and serves on the Our Lady of Holy Souls Finance Council. She was awarded the UA Little Rock Foundation Fund Board Member Crystal Award in 2013. She has been married to Steve Blair for over 43 years. For fun, she enjoys exploring the outdoors and has competed in over 100 triathlons over the past 20 years. Please join me in welcoming Susan Blair to Club 99.
Thank you, Jay and Jerome and Elizabeth, and welcome, Susan. I'm so glad you're a member of Club 99. Okay, so As a reminder, this Saturday is the Club 99 tailgate. It's going to be at War Memorial, of course. Game time changed to noon, so Rocky Goodman will have his spot out there ready to go at 9:30 with some mimosas and breakfast treats. So be sure to, if you're in town and you're going to the game, or even if you're not going to the game, you know that tailgating's the best part anyway. So come to that. It's going to be awesome. And we will have our Ottenheimer scholars there, and that will be kind of their farewell until they'll be taken off to DC after that, and then back to Germany. So that'll be a great way to send them off in true Arkansas style. Yes, it's in the newsletter. There's details in the newsletter, and then thank you, Kelly, for that. And then we're actually sending out a reminder that we'll include in this email that Karen sends out today or tomorrow. There'll be a little map too, but he's along Markham, and we'll have big blue and yellow rotary balloons, so you'll be easy to find. So. Thank you. And then finally, remember, next week we have no lunch meeting, but very excited to let you guys know that our evening event, we're going to have an evening event on September 5th, and we are taking over the new Wright's Barbecue. Jordan Wright was actually a guest a couple of weeks ago here, and we called him up and said, hey, we want to kind of take over. He's opening Wright before then, and so it'll be a great kind of sneak peek to that. We're just going to do a kind of come anytime between 5:30 and 9:30. We'll have dinner for you. It's a cash bar, but it'll be a great time just to connect with your fellow Rotarians, enjoy some amazing barbecue, welcome a new business into town, and have fun, of course. So there will be an RSVP link that goes out today that Karen will be sending out, and please definitely, if you can, RSVP and let us know that you'll be there. All right, so before we get going with our programming today, as you guys know, and for guests, we have a theme of the power of fun. And so each week I kind of give a little fun tip for you guys to think on. So this week, it's all about playgrounds. So I can assume that all of you guys know what a playground is. You might have a vision of monkey bars, of the teeter-totter. If you're of a certain age, then you remember those metal slides like burned your legs going down. I think there's some still around, but thing about it is playgrounds are actually all around us. They're structures, either metaphorical or literal, that foster fun by encouraging playfulness, connection, and flow, and signal to people that it's okay to let their guard down. So there are playgrounds all around us. We just haven't labeled them that way. So it can be an arena, it could be a card table, maybe a stage, a screen, a pickleball court, you name it. The key is that these playgrounds have special rules. Once you're inside those walls, you've given yourself a permission slip to do things that you might not otherwise do in ordinary life. So a good example of this that Catherine Price puts in the Power of Fun book is pin the tail on the donkey. We all know this. You usually play at a kid's birthday party. It's totally normal to volunteer to have someone blindfold you, spin you around, hand you a tack, and then you go and put a pin in a fake tail, paper donkey tail there. People laughed at your attempts. This is all okay. It might seem weird out of context, but in that moment at a birthday party, no one bats an eye that this is going on. So once you've entered those walls of this playground, you're free to immerse yourself in the game's absurdity with no need to feel subconscious or dumb about it. So playgrounds are everywhere, really, once you start noticing them. In fact, our tailgate event on Saturday is perfectly defined as a playground. It's, tailgates are built for fun, and that's what these playgrounds do. Well-constructed playgrounds create a sense of safety and belonging that allows us to let go and be playful, and whenever that happens, we're more likely to attract true fun. So there's a whole section in Catherine's book on building playgrounds. So of course, the easiest way to experience the fun-generating potential of playgrounds is to participate in ones that already exist. So that might be classes or group activities or tailgate parties. But if you're up for the challenge, you could look to create your own. So a great example of this is if you guys were here last week, Annabeth Gorman was featured in the video. Her fun is these themes. She creates these elaborate parties around them. She's building her own playgrounds and bringing people into that, whether it's her kids or family or friends. If a playground is successful, it will likely turn into a tradition. So kind of like my annual pumpkin chunkin' party. After the weekend after Halloween, we invite all of our friends to come over and bring their pumpkins and all the things, and we throw them at targets off our deck. And it's awesome. There's a teeter-totter one that you can throw down, a beer comes up, and whoever catches it wins a prize. It's great. But that is a playground that has turned into a tradition. So you can see that that's definitely a true fun moment that you're bringing people in. So this week, think about the playgrounds that you're a part of or that you could be a part of. Think about getting involved or even building one of your own and inviting others to create fun with you. So we are going to see another fun video. I love this one. I think you'll enjoy it.
I'm Pamela Smith, and I am the Executive Communications Director and Senior Advisor for the Little Rock School District. Fun means being able to let your hair down and relax no matter what's going on in your day. I love traveling, I love eating, trying new restaurants, and also meeting people. That's what I do for fun. Actually, I've been a lot of places. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I also sing. Part of my college career included traveling across the country in a van with a U-Haul, and we hit approximately 35 states or better in the US. I am just innately a curious person, so traveling to other places is really exciting for me to get to see how other cultures live and experiencing their cuisine. And I most recently had the opportunity to go to Italy. I had the pleasure of doing a cooking class in Morocco. So we had a chance to work with professional chefs in the cooking schools and then prepare the meal and sample what we cooked. So I worked in television, and we were all assigned stories to do extreme summer fun. And I kept wondering why I was getting the skydiving story. It's like, are they trying to give me a subtle hint about killing me? No, I'm just kidding. I went to do the story, and I knew nobody would believe that I was gonna actually skydive, so I thought I'm gonna surprise them. They had to literally pry my hand off the door, because when I realized what I had committed to doing, I thought, have you lost your mind? I was able to land safely. I landed flat on my feet because I was just thankful to be back on the ground. It's one of those things that I did it, I lived to tell about it, I'm good.
Oh, Pam. I love that you went skydiving. Are you sure you don't want to go with me again? Let's do it. No, okay. I love it. Well, I'm excited to invite Club 99er Chris Mangum up to the podium to introduce today's program and moderate a great discussion with our Ottenheimer scholars, Robert and Florian. Before I do that, I'd like to ask all of our Ottenheimer committee members, plus any members who have hosted or entertained these two awesome guys, to please stand up. We just want to give you a round of applause and thank you. Look at that. I'm so thankful all of you guys are here. Thank you so much for representing our club and our state so well and taking care of these guys. So if you guys will come on up, before Chris starts with our program, we are going to do a flag exchange because you know that's a tradition here at any Rotary Club, and these guys have flags. Come on up. We'll just come up here in the middle. These guys have flags from their country. Chris and I have our flag. Chris. A couple pictures. Thank y'all.
Okay, test. Well, let me start by saying that I've spent a good bit of time with these guys the last week and a half or so, and they are really remarkable young men. They came here with a lot of substantial questions that they wanted to address. They really wanted to understand what it was like on the ground in America and in Arkansas. And they came here with some preconceived notions. We're going to explore those a little bit. Hopefully we've kind of set them right in terms of, really understanding what both America and Arkansas are really about. I want to start, though, by talking a little bit about the anniversary of the Oppenheimer program. This is the 75th anniversary. It's no accident that Germany is the country that was chosen this year, because Gus Oppenheimer, who started the program and for whom it's named, was from Germany. And he came here and really accomplished an incredible life and really embodied the American dream. When World War II was over, through his travels, he realized that there were countries where young people were being influenced by different systems, political systems, economic systems. He wanted to make sure that those young people had some exposure to our system or systems. And he thought, rather than bring them to Washington, D.C. or New York or places where they would have one aspect of that, he wanted to bring them here so that they could really see on the ground how democracy and capitalism are applied in a moderate, pragmatic way. And so as we were pulling this together, I kept reminding myself or asking myself as my litmus test for whether this was going in the right direction or not, what would Gus think, right, about their experience here, the answers that we've given them to their questions that they came here with. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about their background. And some of you may have traveled in Germany. You may know about Germany from history class and studies of World War II and that sort of thing. But Germany is very nuanced. It's a big country. And we think of East and West Germany as sort of being the divisions, the post-World War II divisions of Germany, but Northern and Southern Germany are very different, right? So Robert is from a small city, small town in northern Germany called Plön. It's very close to the Baltic Sea, very close to Denmark. It's got a Scandinavian sort of flavor to it and influence. His parents are both physicians. His father's a member of the Rotary Club in your town. He's an electrical engineer, or becoming an electrical engineer, studying electrical engineering, and wants to continue his studies at the master's level there. Big football fan, American football fan. In fact, he's a Miami Dolphins fan. Probably didn't expect that, did you? And they both seem to enjoy the high school football game that they went to this past week. Florian is from southern Germany, a small town, small village near Eichstätt. It's between Munich and Nuremberg, and that's in Bavaria. Bavaria is known for Oktoberfest and beer halls. In fact, the pumpkin beer teeter-totter thing, I hope you take that back to, that sounds like an excellent Oktoberfest game. I don't know, yeah. But his background was kind of being nurtured in the cultures and traditions of Bavaria, but his family encouraged him to go out and travel and see the world. And they both are really, they're extensively traveled. Florian has traveled all over Europe, Central Europe, Turkey. Robert has covered a lot of that ground and has also been to Australia, China, New Zealand. He's been to the US a couple times. So as we were talking about what they expected when they came here, and this was about a 3.5-hour discussion at Camp Taco last week, we thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we took some of the descriptions you're giving me of your expectations, and we put those into the Midjourney AI. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Midjourney. Midjourney is this artificial intelligence where you go to a page and you enter in a command, /imagine, and then you describe what you want it to imagine, and it creates images based on your description. And you can type paragraphs of description, and it gets more and more intricate. If you don't like that, version, you hit it again and it recycles and it gives you another 4 images of what you tried to describe until you get what you want to get. So based on the descriptions that they gave us, we did that. Now, I'm going to warn you, some of these images are going to kind of teeter on the edge of social commentary. I don't want anybody to be offended by it. That's not the intention of the images, okay? It's really just to kind of give you a sense for where their head was when they got here, of what they expected, okay? So, some of their preconceptions. So first, this is kind of what they expected the terrain to look like, okay? Now this was, I think, somewhat based on Robert's travel to the U.S. because you had spent some time around the Grand Canyon in Arizona and the desert Southwest. So you thought, well, you know, Arkansas is kind of closer to Arizona than it is to New York. It's hard to tell, right? I mean, so this is kind of what the expectation was when they got here. And then we talked about these icons or stereotypes or archetypes that they are exposed to in Europe of what America really is, what Americans really are, what we aspire to, even issues that we have, okay? And so, of course, you know, one of the quintessential archetypes of American entrepreneurship is really not even an American. He's South African by birth, but all of the companies that he started have been here in the U.S. And of course, he and Steve Jobs, probably another iconic tech entrepreneur who's accomplished a lot of things. Now, these guys represent progress, but they also represent, you know, not so good things, concentration of wealth and those sorts of things that are also kind of uniquely American in a way. So the other thing that they mentioned was NATO. When they think of America, they think of NATO and military leadership. And so I typed into Midjourney, imagine NATO commander and a couple things like that. And I really wasn't getting the right image back. So I thought, you know, we have a NATO commander, former NATO commander right here in Little Rock. So I typed in, imagine General Wesley Clark. That's the image that came up. Now, it's not Wesley Clark, but, you know, it looks like a painted portrait of a NATO commander, right? So I thought that was kind of interesting. Okay, now this is where it starts getting a little controversial, okay? So Florian said, you know, when I thought about Arkansas, I thought, you know, it's near Texas. When I think of Texas, I think of cowboys. But also when I think of America, I think of fast food chains. And so I think the cowboy probably would have gorged on a lot of fast food and gotten a little bit heavy from that. And so that's what came out of Midjourney. That's the new American cowboy. And of course, he's armed with an automatic rifle. Okay. Now, hold on. So then we typed in imagine gun culture. Now this was really intriguing to both of these guys because guns in Germany, you can't privately own guns in Germany. And they were very interested in exploring that here, okay? Because it's kind of a uniquely American thing. Good or bad, I don't care what you think about guns, but it is uniquely American. It is pervasive. And, you know, these returning veterans after 20 years of war, you know, who come back hardened from battle, scarred from battle, that sort of thing, you know, that's also, you know, as these guys see war in Ukraine and you know, NATO's potential involvement in all of that, you know, just a hair trigger away, you know, they wonder about this guy. You know, is he going to come back and engage again? You know? George Floyd, the George Floyd protests, you know, were a big part of, you know, their expectation coming here. You know, what are race relations really like in the U.S. now? And then, of course, the January 6th event. You know, that's an image that I think, you know, Europeans were very frightened by. Okay? So, again, not trying to provide social commentary here. I just wanted you to understand where these guys were coming from when they got here. And then I thought, well, man, what would Gus Ottenheimer think about this? I mean, are we here to change their minds, or are they here to change our minds? You know, I mean, what is the real impact of this program? And I think I'm realizing that it's two-way. You know, they influence us as much as we influence them. And I want to kind of talk about what they experienced. And I think this goes, Natalie, to your theme of having fun, because I think you guys had a good time, right? I mean, they've had a good time. It's been whirlwind, but they've had a really good time. And I really want to do the pumpkin beer thing. I just can't get that off my mind. But all right, let's do it. So the first thing that they did was they saw that it doesn't look like this desert, high desert, barren landscape that they might have expected, right? You've seen a lot of the state at this point. You're going to see more of it this week as you get up to to Northwest Arkansas. So these are photos that actually Robert provided for the screen for the presentation. So I'm going to flip through a series of photos of things that they've encountered to kind of address some of their preconceptions, and then I want to spend some time at the end talking with them about their opinions. Now, for the gun culture, these guys dug in. I mean, they went to a firing range and fired pistols for the first time in their lives. This is something that you cannot do in Germany unless you're a police officer, right? Right? Okay. So we're going to talk about how this made you feel about guns and all that in just a second. Went to Central High School, really the epicenter of race relations and, a terrible event, but maybe the beginning of a transformation, in the country too, symbolic in that way. And then to a public elementary school where you saw, really diverse group of students and kind of saw what it's like on the ground in the public education system. Went to Rockefeller and, got to sense some of his impact on the state. You got to hold a lot of money, and you're smiling really big there, Florian. I mean, they let you do that in Germany?
No, but it was really near that I ran away.
Yeah, well, I bet they had a lot of guys that would chase you down with all that money. And then, of course, the old seat of power and the current seat of power in the government. And we're going to get to a photo here in a minute where Denver Peacock actually took us inside the Capitol this morning for a really neat experience. We got to see Hot Springs, the Venture Center downtown, see what's going on in the tech entrepreneurship world here, ULR, and met with honors students over there. Got to pretend to be President of the United States for a few minutes there. Did he let you sit behind the desk too? Or?
Yes, I had the possibility and to sign a non-legal document.
Okay. All right, good. And then Ed Levy hosted the group out at his backyard oasis there. I think you guys had a good time there. Really fun conversations and interesting conversations, I think, based on what we were discussing. And of course, they got to meet the governor, which was pretty interesting. Huh? So you guys came full circle. I mean, we measured your preconceptions. We tried to show you what reality is like. So let's, there you go. So let's talk about what your takeaways are. I mean, based on what you've experienced, what you came here thinking and expecting, and kind of where you ended up. And let's start, if you don't mind, because I know it was kind of the intriguing, issue on your minds about the gun thing. I mean, going to a firing range and shooting a gun for the first time. Can you talk a little bit about what gun ownership is like in Germany? And you guys each a chance to talk a little bit about that.
So as a German, it's very exciting to be in a room with a gun because you only see it with police officers, and there are not many police officers on street. And of course, when you hunt, you need a special license, and it's restricted. So normally, as a normal German, you can't see a gun. So we were very excited. Actually, it was my plan to go to a gun range, but being in the same room as a loaded weapon was like, okay, strange, crazy. But we had a very good training. I think Robert will tell you about the training a little bit more in detail. And then going to the gun range, it was, I think we didn't know what to expect, but I thought maybe it would be fun, and it was fun. And of course, we had a little bit of background education and historical facts that help us to treat the gun like Americans treat them, maybe.
What do you think, Robert?
Yeah, so with the gun, going to the gun range, it wasn't something I know that you can do in America, and which is probably very popular for people to visit, to do it as well. It wasn't a thing where I was like excited about doing it. So because, well, I had especially with the training we got before, and so we went with a former military person there who was also a weapons instructor in the military, so he knows how to teach people how to use guns. And that was, well, gave us, I think, a lot of confidence going in there, because when we were at the gun range, they only show you a 3-minute video, what to look out for, but no one is telling you how to hold a gun, for example. You just borrow a gun, you load the magazine, you go to your stand, and then you can just shoot. So, and that is something what I thought, okay, I'm glad that we had the training beforehand and were taught how to use a gun. And it's something, at the end, so after getting used to it, I also had a lot of fun, so, which I didn't expect beforehand, because I would say I had a lot of respect for it. Because in Germany, the American gun culture is normally only shown or introduced to us in the news if something bad had happened, if there was a mass school shooting or with all the mass shooting. And this is like, that shows like how, it shows one side of the perspective in Germany. And like to learn about it with a former military person, and like to learn how many people in America treat it responsible, the weapons, and why they have them at the end, the reasons, and how they handle that. It gave me like a completely different perspective, and now I can also understand that side of the perspective of Americans, why Americans have guns at home, so why they like to have guns, also for competition, for hunting. And so I would still say I wouldn't like to own a gun, but it helped me understanding why people have it. And well,
Well, I was going to ask, I
Yeah.
just wanted to ask that down that direction. Do you feel like you'll go back to Germany wanting to own a gun, or I mean, is there a place in Germany for an individual to own a gun? I mean, that would require a big change there, right?
Yeah, so in Germany, I don't think so. In Germany, I wouldn't like to have a gun, because first, I don't feel a need to have one, because even if I had one, I wouldn't be allowed, for example, to go hunting or something like that. There are no gun ranges where you can like do it for competition. And well, if nearly no one else has a gun, of course, in crime there always is illegal activity in that. But to have one for self-defense, I don't feel like it's necessary in Germany. So that's why I wouldn't like to have one. So,
Okay, and I want to ask you the same question. Will you go back to Germany thinking that, hey, guns might be a good thing for Germany to have, or private ownership of guns?
Well, I wouldn't buy one because it's illegal. But I would say, yes, it was fun for one time. I think when you do it often, the fun gets a little bit smaller, because you're used to it. And I think the most important thing for most Americans is to protect yourself, because everybody know that everybody has a weapon. But that's not the case in Germany. So I don't feel like I have to be protected to guns from other people to protect myself. So I wouldn't say it's necessary for me. Even I would think it's difficult for me when I see a lot of people going crazy they hit each other, for example, in the night when they are drunk, for example. And I would be very afraid if I know that they have access to guns. So I think personally that the way Germany makes it, it's for me, it's better.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit. When we were talking last week, we started talking about political divisiveness in the U.S. And, you know, we think of the divisiveness kind of being in between two main parties in the U.S. And you described to me that your two main parties, the conservative side and the liberal side, have actually devolved into 6 parties, 3 on the conservative side, 3 on the more liberal side. Can you talk a little bit about what happened to cause that, how recent it is, and maybe any concerns that you have about that outcome in Germany?
Okay, at first we have 6 parties, the right-wing party and the left-wing party, of course, the liberals, the social democrats, the Christian Democrats, and the Green Party. I heard that the Green Party was there in the United States too. And it's interesting because I think that in the United States it becomes more and more divided between the two main parties, so the Democrats and the Republicans. And I think you can see it in Germany a little bit too. For example, the right-wing party become more and more right-wing, and also the liberals and the Christian Democrats go a little bit right-wing too. So you can divide our system in 2 parties, at least 2 parties too. But the difficult thing and the different thing in Germany is that we have to build a government. So the most powerful party can search for another 1 or 2 parties to have a majority. So every law and everything what should be changed, you have to search for a majority in the votes. So you have to convince the other parties when you want to change something. That is often difficult, but that leads to a more productive and more cooperation between the parties. I think that is the better part for me personally.
So it forces collaboration to build a coalition to get anything done. You know, right? Okay. And what do you have viewpoints on that fragmentation of the parties in Germany? That anything you would like to add to that?
Yes. So as Florian said, we have like 3 parties with a little bit more on the well, when in the U.S. it's like then the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. But it's also what we've learned now here during our time is with the 2 parties in the US that inside the parties there are people with very different opinion, and in the end you can really relate to it in Germany that, like, of course in the media normally the like extremes are a little bit more vocal, so you hear more about them, even if there are more people like more in the middle and also maybe would like to cooperate with the other party, but at the end, to get the majority, you have to be in your party. I think that's like a little bit of a problem in the US system at the moment, that people would like to cooperate and have similar views. It's similar in Germany with some of the parties, but at the end, there's only one party building the government and naming the president, so you have to also support your party to be in a position to change something in your beliefs, even if you have sometimes the same beliefs or plans as the other party, but that you have to support your party to, be able to make that change as well at the end.
Okay. And so we're going to do 2 more topics. The next one I wanted to talk about is education. Now, you made some interesting observations about private education in the U.S. and that it really doesn't exist in Germany, right? There's no such thing as, well, there are some private schools, but they're very unusual. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So in Germany, we have only or nearly only public schools. The big advantage of that is that in our school system, there, it's no difference between the rich people and the poor people. And often, I think in the United States, the public schools get too less money from the government to be a good school and to be good in education. And that could lead to a gap between the rich people and the poor people. And in Germany, it makes no difference in school education to be rich or poor, but we have the same problem, but not with the money, but statistically, the rich people are more educated than the poor people, and the children of rich people becomes better education, get better education than the poor people. So I think we have kind of the same problem, but for us, we can't solve it with public and private schools, because I think for you it would be the best solution to make no difference between the people who can afford private schools and the people who can't afford private schools. That's the big difference in Germany.
Okay. Would you like to add anything to that?
Yes, so as Florian said, for example, the closest private school to my place where I grew up would be like 40 miles away. So it's because also there are like closely no private schools. Many people go to, or over 99% I think in Germany go to public schools because the education is also very well. And yeah, what I'd like to say is a little bit about it. So I could talk about like for hours about the differences in the education systems when you go into detail. But in Germany, it's I think very interesting in high school, especially later on, that you have so that goes a little bit back again to the gun culture. So what I was most surprised a little bit, so I heard about it but never saw it, that you have security in school, metal detectors in school, and I think that was like the biggest difference, the biggest, not shock, but surprise a little bit in comparison to a school in Germany, which made me feel like, okay, going to school, only the presence makes you feel like, okay, do I need to be worried? And this is, I think, also a problem between or a difference between the school in Germany and in the US in high school. That
So the issues kind of overlap.
yes, that is involved. With the education at the end, I would say that you also can get very good education in public schools as well in the US, but of course with the amount of private schools, it's sometimes difficult, but in Germany, it's, as Florian said, it's also that it depends on the environment where you grow up, how good your education actually maybe is at the end. So yeah, so these are probably similar problems our two countries have, but what me really impressed or changed the view how people are living in school, how the situation is in school, which is in Germany totally different. So.
Got it. Okay, so last topic that we talked about was race relations. And in Germany, the race relations are defined less by a division between Northern Europeans and people of African descent. It's really more Muslim, anti-Muslim sentiment, right? Can you talk a little bit about why that's come about and how recent it is and what you see happening there?
In Germany, we don't have as many African American people, so as many black people. So of course there is some of racism against black people, but not as much because there are none to be against. So we have many Muslims, and many refugees from Syria or Afghanistan. And there you can see that often the people who are not as educated are afraid that they will take their jobs away, so that they are not able to find a job anymore. So you can see that mostly in the eastern part of Germany, where actually at least the less percentage of the immigrants go to, there are very radical against the refugees, and they, a few years ago they burned the buildings of the refugees because they were so afraid to lose their wealth, and that is very difficult in rural areas, because you want to defend people like you and me who are refugees, and in rural areas there are, even in Bavaria, or at least in Bavaria, there are like 60 to 80% against many refugees, and that's a big part. So I often discuss with my friends, and it's very difficult for them to accept that someone come to Germany.
So they see them as competition for jobs and things, right? Okay. Anything you would like to add about that?
Yeah, so mostly that movement started with the war in Syria. So in 2014, 15, 16, a lot of refugees from the Middle East, also from some countries in Africa, but that time mostly from the Middle East, came to Europe. So for Germany, I think every year they had over 1 million refugees coming to Germany, and that's, of course, is changed. At the beginning, it was from the government and from the population, okay, we have to help the people. Many people said that, especially Germany with the history, want to make up also for something. So they wanted to help, but at the end, they've noticed, first of all, the cultural differences are very big. So it's very difficult to integrate them. And at the end, then of course they need a lot of support in the integration, but also financial support when they're coming, because some of them even have no documentation, no ID, nothing when they come. So it's very difficult to do it officially by rule at the end, everything. So, and over time there were so many people also from not only regions where there's war coming to Germany or to Europe, also economic refugees. And at the end, it's the problem is how many refugees can a country take and host at the end. But they still need to be able to integrate them into the culture. And at the end, that's probably the point where Germany is at the moment. How many people can we take, and how many people we actually can help? And
they had to go somewhere, right? It was a humanitarian crisis in Syria.
Yeah, and they had to go somewhere.
Millions of people needed to go somewhere.
Yeah, and unfortunately also many people died on the way, especially when they traveled with boats over the Mediterranean Sea. But there are other countries in Europe who took none of the refugees. Yeah. So, which then now changed with the Ukrainian war, if I'm allowed to go into the direction of it. Sure. So where it was because the cultural differences are not so big, so many people or many countries welcomed the Ukrainians a lot more than refugees from other regions, and helped them a lot more, especially also in Germany. It was for Ukrainians easier to get housing. It was easier for them to get a job than refugees from the Middle East. They got more support overall at the end. And at the end, you have to ask yourself, is that the right way? Of course, it's easier to integrate them in somehow, but with the culture. But at the end, you normally should everybody differently, because the people from the Middle East had also a war where they were running from. So.
Right. So, I mean, as you hear these guys talk, I mean, there are a lot more similarities than you might think between issues that they're dealing with and issues that we're dealing with. maybe it's slightly different origin that immigrants are coming from, but the problem is the same. It's integration of people who are perceived as different, more different, less different than we are, right? But it's something that I think faces people all over the world. You guys okay if I open it up to the audience for a couple questions? Or we
Yes.
have a few more minutes for that. You okay with that? Anybody? Yeah, yeah.
So I wouldn't say so. It probably was in the last weeks. So I had, unfortunately, not the possibility to follow every German news. Actually, in some other parts in Germany, there's a lot of rain at the moment, so with a lot of floods as well. So it's normally during summer. Sometimes it's lower. It depends on the rain, but I think over time it is not so big of a problem because there's normally enough rain in that area as well. Sometimes, of course, when the barges get bigger, then it can sometimes also is a problem. So, so they have to dig sometimes there as well to make it deeper. But overall, I don't think over time, not for the moment at least, I would say. Yeah. Yeah,
Great. Yes.
So I come from a very rural area with about 250 inhabitants in it, and the old people, but also the people who are around 40 or 50, they go to church every Sunday. And I think the problem is they go to church because they know each other, and they know if they won't go to church, everybody will see it, and everybody will talk about it. But
Peer pressure is real, man.
yeah,
Peer pressure.
it's like that. It is like that, and but for the younger generation, it's not the main topic anymore. And I think in cities, it's pretty the same, and even more less important.
Yeah, if I can add quickly to that. So yeah, I think in Germany it also depends on the region because the southern part where Florian is from, they are mostly Catholic. So, and especially there on the countryside, I think it's still bigger, the religion. It plays a much bigger role than, for example, in the northern part where I'm from, where most people are Lutheran. And there, I think it's, yeah, also with the older generation, it starts to get less and less. And yeah, I think in the northern part has not the biggest, not such a big influence than the Catholic Church in this house still.
You do hear about that trend throughout Europe, though, where people just are not going to churches now, right? They don't, even the Catholic Church, they were kind of abandoning it, young people. It's interesting. Any other questions from the audience? Yes.
I have the dreaded a comment, then a question. But my comment is these two young men stayed with our family for 6 or 7 days, and they are just delightful, wonderful ambassadors for their country. And certainly kudos to the Oppenheimer for bringing young people like this to our city and the state. So that's the dreaded but good comment.
Agreed.
Thank you.
And then secondly, just what surprised you or did you not know, what's something unusual that you're like, oh, I had no idea I'd stay with someone with 6 pets or something.
Yeah, so, well, as you probably saw on the pictures at the beginning, the nature part, I think, was a surprise. Yeah, so as Chris mentioned that I've been to the US before, and for me it was like, okay, at the coast, there are people, most people are living on the coast, and it's mostly green, and so on and so on. And then if you just move a little bit away from the coast, it turns closer to the desert very quickly. So I thought, that it's maybe also looking like that in Arkansas when I came. I was proven wrong. So, but surprising, I would say, also the welcomeness of the people in the South. So it's also cultural, again, very differently to people in Germany. So.
Do you remember what Buzz Arnold said? Would you mind reciting that?
Yes. I hope I can get it right. So he said that the Southern are very welcome at the beginning, and then it flats off a little bit the curve, and people from Northern America, like New York and so on, they need time, and then they will welcome you even more later on during that time, and at the end it will be the same. But.
They had lunch with Buzz Arnold, and he had a very lyrical way of saying it, but in the South, we welcome you with open arms at first, and then we cool to you. In the North, we're cool to you, but we warm up to you over time, but we both end up in the same place eventually, right? What has been your surprise?
I want to say one point that is, I think, interesting for you all. I was very interested in the tuition of the university or college, because in Germany the university costs between 250 and 500 euro per year, so it's much cheaper than in the United States. So I asked many young people, and I found out that there are many programs where you can get money from, but many of the people also say, okay, I have a debt of, I don't know, $70,000 after my university. And that for me was, I think, a big disadvantage in the United States. So so I talked with them what could be solutions, and that was very interesting for me.
Interesting. Okay, well, we're almost out of time. Natalie, thank you all. And guys, thanks.
Thank you.
Oppenheimer Committee, great selections. Well done.
Thank you guys so much. I'm so glad that you've enjoyed your time here. That was very interesting, Chris. I loved how you brought that conversation together, so thank you very much. Okay, so you guys have seen this because you've been to several of our meetings, and as you know, this mural is being painted right now. You're so welcome in the River Market. And it's really, Little Rock is big on fun, and I really hope that you guys experience that. I think you did, and you're definitely going to at the tailgate, so it'll be a good ending. Thank you again to the committee members, to all the hosts and people who took them everywhere from Hot Springs to, I think they're going to Heber and doing some lake fun before they come out to the game on Saturday. So again, Northwest Arkansas, okay, great. So you guys have a lot left, actually. You got a lot of good stuff, so thank you so much. I appreciate everybody who's helped to entertain them. So really quick, don't miss, we have 2 amazing socials coming up. The tailgate on Saturday. Again, an email will go out with more info on that. Next week, we do not have a lunch meeting, but please come to Wright's Barbecue. You can bring a guest, so RSVP on that. That will be super fun. And then the following week, September 12th, is going to be a super interesting panel on an update on where we are on marijuana in the state, the latest laws around CBD, and hemp, and it's going to be a representative from the state of Arkansas, one of the large law firms, Good Day Farms, and then Heights Apothecary, so it's really going to be a great discussion. So look forward to seeing you guys soon, and we are adjourned.